Awesome.
Well, you even get to sit down because you're an old guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right behind me. You know that.
Just a year.
Yeah. So Gartz was drafted to the Washington Capitals, and he came in. I was there a year before, so I am the old guy. Now there's a most important question Colleen wants to know. I'm going to talk to you about Colleen in a minute. Little House on the Prairie. Okay, let the people in. What was the Little House on the Prairie?
Well, just to go back a little further, now Ryan and I have known each other for 40 years, actually 40 years. We played in the World Juniors together for Team Canada in 1977, so it was 40 years. I was the best man at Ryan's wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. We've been friends for a long time. He lives on the one side of Canada. I live on the other. And we don't see each other all that much, but as soon as we see each other talk on the phone, it's like we talked yesterday. So we've been awesome friends. So in our first year, we lived together when we were playing for the Washington Capitals. We rented a house, and it was a small little house. And there wasn't a tree or a shrub on the entire house, around the house, and we didn't own a lawnmower. So as a couple of young guys, 20-year-olds, the grass started growing. So we called it the Little House on the Prairie because it looked like it was in the prairie. And we weren't very good housekeepers, we just weren't. And over the course of time, the garbage, we never figured out when the garbage was supposed to be picked up.
Couldn't figure out when garbage day was, right?
And so anyway, in our laundry room, the garbage bags were piling up. And then when Colleen came to visit, she looked and said, "You guys are a bunch of slobs. You've got 14 bags of garbage." And anyway, we got through it, Wally.
Oh, yeah.
We did.
And one of my favorite memories is Mike had a little TV in his bedroom, and I had a little TV in my bedroom. And we'd yell at each other across the hall, "What are you watching?" Right?
I know.
Those are good times.
And talking about brawls, I noticed you mentioned that when you were talking a few minutes ago. And I was a smart guy in a brawl. So the 1 year I played for the Minnesota North Stars, we're playing against the Chicago Blackhawks, and we're going up for warm-up in the Chicago Stadium. Now, warm-up, you're allowed to dress 20 players. But in warm-up, there's usually 23, 24 players because the guys haven't been scratched for the game. So there's literally 48 players skating in warm-up. And what happens? A brawl breaks out. There are no referees around. I'm looking for referees. There are no referees. Nothing's going on. There's pucks flying back and forth. The guys are dropping the gloves, and there's it's happening, right? It's a 48-person brawl. So I'm looking around and thinking, where's Dennis Savard? So I go grab Savvy, and he grabs me, and we look at each other and said, "You okay?" He says, "Yeah, you okay?"
We're good.
We're not throwing any punches here. So I learned quick.
That's so good. I'll never forget. I think I remember a brawl that you and I were in with the Capitals against Philly again. And I don't know if it was Bobby
You're a bad
Clark.
influence on me, Wally.
I know, buddy. I'm sorry. I think Clarkie might have had you, or anyway. But the emotion that comes out there, right? And I remember thinking and saying to Bobby Clark, and I have huge respect for Bobby Clark. "If you touch my buddy Gartz, I'll kill you." Where does that come out of?
I know. I remember that.
Oh my goodness!
And the craziest part is Bobby looked, and he was smart too, because he looked at you and he thought, this guy's kind of serious. And
that was crazy. So, Gartz, couple of quick little things. You have a wonderful family. Introduce us to Colleen. And how did you guys meet?
Yeah, we met on our bikes when we were kids, and that's a true story. Colleen and I dated for 5 years as teenagers, and when we were married in 1981, Colleen was 19 and I was 21, and we just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. She's my best friend, and I could not have done any of this stuff without her, and I know that you and Jenna will be married 35 years this summer. Yep. And so we're pretty lucky. We both are smart. Once again, Wally, we married above our heads. Which is good. It's all good news.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. How about let's head into hockey just a little bit. So obviously, Mike has had an amazing career. Let's just get to some of the little guts of it, though. What was the hardest trade for you? Because you and I both been traded.
Yeah. I think the hardest one was the first trade. So I was playing for Washington. I'd played in Washington for 10 years. And I didn't hear any rumors that I was getting traded. And then all of a sudden I was traded to the Minnesota North Stars. Larry Murphy and I were traded for Dino Ciccarelli and Bob Rouse. And I tell you, for the rest of that year, I think there was about 15 or 20 games left in the season, and then the playoffs that year in Minnesota. It was like being in a fog. It was a tough thing to do. First time I'd ever been traded. And I know you had that same experience a few years earlier, and it is the strangest thing, and not something that I ever wanted to do again. And then got traded another 3 times on top of that at the trade deadline. So just to rub a little salt into the wound.
So I got traded from the Capitals, where Mike and I were best friends and teammates and loved playing together, to the Montreal Canadiens, where I obviously spent tons of time with Donnie and his family. But that first game when we played against each other was weird. Like we, so isn't it true? Like, we couldn't look at each other. We're on the ice. We're here to do a job. I think he speared me.
I just wanted to see what he would do.
Wasn't that weird, though? Isn't that a weird feeling, Garth?
It was very strange, and we both were number 11 and kind of lined up along face-offs against each other. It was really weird. And I was a smart guy. I got to tell you, I'm a smart guy. I stayed away from Ryan because I saw what he did to other people, and I didn't want him to do that to me.
And then after the game, you go out for dinner. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way it is. So. 700 goals. Now we got the Beezer here. You better not answer him. Okay, here's the question. 700 plus goals. Who's the favorite goalie to score on? Hope it's not Johnny.
No, not at all. And Beezer and I were teammates as well in New York, and I always had a tough time scoring against Beezer, and now I knew why when I played with him, because I practiced against him so many times. I had a tough time beating him in practice. But one of the hardest goalies to play against was Patrick Waugh. And he was great. Marty Brodeur was a great goaltender too, but I had pretty good success against Marty. We played against him so many times when he was playing for New Jersey. So Marty was, between Marty and Patrick Waugh, 2 very good goaltenders that I had a tough time scoring on.
And just you bring up Pepe. Here's the thing I remember about Patrick Waugh, because we obviously played with him a long time. He was the only goalie I've ever seen in my lifetime that in practice, if a puck went in, you know how goalies let all those pucks in practice, he would literally turn around, get the puck out. Remember that, Pep? He lived. So here's his philosophy in life: no pucks in. So he didn't care if you're going to shoot again on him. He'd turn around and get it out. What a competitor. How about Gart's hardest player to play against?
Well, a couple of players, when the Islanders were having their dynasties of winning 4 cups in a row there, it was we played, when I was with Washington or New York, we played against them a number of different times during the course of the season, and I always lined up against Clark Gillies. Now, Clark Gillies was a big guy, and he was strong, and he was a little bit mean, and every shift I was on the ice, he was lined up against me, and he was a tough guy to play against. And then if I ever got past Clark, there was Dennis Potvin ready to take my head off and just kill me. Funny story with Dennis, actually. And one time Dennis was, I'm coming, we're playing in Long Island, and I'm coming across the blue line, and I see Denny coming to step into me. He's going to crush me, right? So I get my stick up, and I'm literally, honestly, trying to cross-check him in the head if I can. And I didn't quite get it up far enough, and he hits me with his shoulder and knocks me down, and I was using one of these Titan Turbo hockey sticks. It was a fiberglass stick. I wish it broke. It didn't break. And so I'm down, and I see the referee's up. I say, yeah, he's getting a penalty. And I realize, no, I'm getting the penalty for cross-checking. I'm going, oh, man. So I go back to the penalty box, and my hand is killing me. And I'm looking down at my glove, and all of a sudden it's covered in blood. So I whip my glove off, and I look, and my whole thumb is almost separated because of the pressure on the stick from Dennis Potvin hitting me. And so at the break, I get the referee's attention, and I say, I got to go get stitched up here. So I go into the dressing room, I get stitched up, and I mean, my hand is killing me. I say to the doctor in there, and I said, could you give me a little freezing in there? So he said, yeah, okay, I'll give you a little freezing. Put freezing in. I go back out, I play a shift, still can't, I mean, it's killing me. So I go back into the dressing room, I said, you got to give me a little more freezing. So he goes, okay. So he gives me a little more freezing. So I go back out. I can't even feel my hand. I can't hold on to the stick. I said, I'm out. Little Dennis Potvin story.
What a player. Yeah, awesome. So, Gartz, you and I had sort of the same, very similar experience. You're in Washington. Life's just flying by for us. We're having a blast. We're playing on a team. We're starting to get better. And then Jesus intersects your life.
Not even looking for it. And that's the thing. And our testimonies are very similar because John Pronovo has played a very big part of that, a teammate just living out his faith. But I realized through those chapels and through the discussions that you and I had many times, and with John and Deanne and Colleen and Jen, and realized that everything was going well for me. I wasn't looking for anything, but I was confronted with the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I either had to make a decision to accept that or to reject it. And for me at that time, the evidence and the power was so overwhelming that I had to make a decision. And I made the decision for Jesus Christ in 1981. And two things I was very concerned about at that time. The first thing was, what would happen with hockey? Would I somehow lose my edge? Would I lose my competitiveness? Would the game be taken away from me somehow? It's tough enough to be a Christian in the world, but let alone be a Christian in the hockey world. And so, you know what? I put my faith, I did a very simple prayer, and I said, Lord, you take care of this for me. And if you want me to keep playing, then I'm going to keep playing. And if somehow I'm not going to keep playing, then so be it. It was just that important. And so I remember after praying that prayer and giving my life to the Lord, and sure enough, not only did I find that I didn't lose any edge or didn't lose any desire, but my desire actually to play and to be the best was intensified, because not only did I feel an obligation to my teammates and to my family, I now felt an obligation to God, who had given me the ability to be in that position. And so the second thing that I was very concerned about is at that time I was engaged, and I was engaged to someone that wasn't raised in a church home, and she started to see the change in me, and she was not very happy about it. We were going to be married that July, and she said, you know, I don't know who you are. I think I'm going to go home and call the wedding off. And I said, oh man, and that's not very good. And so I did what I did before. I just prayed, Lord, if you want me to marry this woman, then you better straighten things out. If not, then let's kind of move on. And so we started to share, and Colleen started to come to some Bible studies. She started to get to know Deanne Pronovo, and through their relationship, I came home from a road trip one time, and she told me that she had also made that decision for the Lord. And we were married that July, and then Colleen and I, as I said, we've been married for 35 years. And so the things that I was most concerned about at that time were both given and then taken and then given right back to me in spades. So it's been awesome. It's been a wonderful journey, and it continues, as you know, Ryan. I mean, it is a journey that keeps going. And I look at, you know, things like this that come up with what happened last night with the awards in the top 100, and it just reminds me of a book that I had read a number of years ago and have reread, and it's by a guy named John Ortberg, and John is a pastor up at Menlo Park, just in Northern California, and he wrote a book called When the Game is Over, It All Goes Back in the Box. And he tells the story of when he was younger, he used to play Monopoly with his grandmother. And as they played Monopoly, his grandmother would always beat him. And she wasn't one of those grandmothers that let the kid win. And he was always discouraged because she always beat him. And he said, as he got older, he learned the game a little bit more. And he learned the game a little bit more. And he realized the idea of Monopoly was world conquest. Like, that's the idea of the game. And he said he remembers the first time that he beat his grandmother at Monopoly. And he said he just destroyed her. He thought that it was the greatest moment in his life that he beat his grandmother at Monopoly. And then when the game was over, his grandmother said, well, okay, it all goes back in the box. And it's so true in life. No matter how many accolades we have, no matter how many successes we have, when the game is over, it all does go back in the box. And what's left is your relationships with your family, your relationships with your friends, and most importantly, your relationship with God through Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.